Well, hello, I'm David Freeman with Is That Really in the Bible? Just recently on Facebook, I was looking at a post someone had made, and it said this. It said, what happens 1 minute after a believer dies? What happens 1 minute after a believer dies? Now, let me tell you something. When it comes up to the state of the dead, there's a lot of confusion about this subject. A lot of people just don't know what happens when you die. They don't understand what the Bible says about the state of the dead. And there are illusions about heaven and heavenly retirement and immediately being with the Lord. So what I want to do in this program, I want to look at what mainstream Churchianity says versus what's really in the Bible. Okay. So this first thing that says what happens when you die is immediately angels usher your soul to heaven. I guess we ride on the wings of an angel to heaven. Did you hear about the book that was written, I think it was 2010, The Boy Who Went to Heaven Never Went? Yeah, it was actually, he said he made the whole thing up. He wrote this book, sold millions of people, deceived millions of people, and eventually he said, no, it was a lie. I made the whole thing up. And in the interview, of course, they pulled the book off the shelf after he admitted that. But in the interview, he said people should read their Bibles. They should study their Bibles for themselves. And I have found that most people will not do that. They'll take a few scriptures here and there that vaguely seems to say maybe something about heaven and being carried away by the angels, but they will not study what their Bibles actually say. So this is the first verse that they use, mainstream Christianity, right here, is Luke 16 and verse 22. Now this is a parable. I'm going to have a lot to say about this. This is a parable, Lazarus and the rich man. And it says this, and it came to pass that the beggar died and was carried by the angels into Abraham's bosom. The rich man also died and was buried. Now, okay, how do you get from that verse the concept of immediately being carried by the angels in the presence of God? Now, let me give you a rule of Bible study that no one's ever told you about. Here it is. You never use a parable to establish a major doctrine. In fact, you don't use a parable is a riddle. It's an allegory. It's something that Jesus used, a story that would, sort of takes you out and then brings you back to the focus. You never use a parable. Okay, Bible study, rule number one, you never use a parable to establish doctrine. And for people to take a parable and to establish the elaborate, immediately being present with the Lord and immediately going to heaven when you die is absolutely ridiculous.